All right, so we started with Kid A and Kid B. We imagined that we were living 23 years, like uh,
Well, this is
Leander.
I'm 20. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and so we have some sort of holographic resonance between all of the different signs that are involved in each of our charts, and then we sublime or we sublimate those particular things onto the chart, the experiences in our lives, right? And so me and Andrew have our signs. We have our planets further apart in the signs, so we have to jump from one point to another rather than going very straightforward. Um, like Kevin, for example, who has all of his signs lined up in two stelliums and two signs for the most part. So he knows what to do already without us saying anything, but we need to jump from point to point. Or person to person, if you will. So we tend to count each person um, as their planet in a particular sign at any given point. And then you said Led Zeppelin wrote a song called "Communication Breakdown," which would be in this um, in this particular arbitrary point in space.
Aligning your definitions with your actual points of attraction.
Yes.
Naturally.
Yeah. And so we're not actually using this as an actual Cartesian coordinate plane. We're using this as a map of the energies with respect to each other, rather than respect to any official measurement thing. Okay.
Okay, so
So we can have something that's scientific but yet somehow abstract. Does that make sense?
so anything that you focus on is going to be a relationship. I think we really have to define the idea of relation. This is almost like the not the church idea, but the way it actually happens.
So you started this discussion based on the idea that I had a romantic attraction for Michelle, but not a sexual one, and I misinterpreted her romantic side and assumed it was a sexual side because it involved touch.
But we have different definitions of sexual and different definitions of romantic. So, God is all over this board for many different people. So, the only way we really can communicate is by emotional talking to each other.
Yeah.
And from there, you can start to actually align with a vocabulary that can do all the stuff. The point I wanted to make that, but something Chris said made me want to say this. In 12th grade, we read about Freud, the Oedipus complex, and who was the other one? Electra.
Yes.
The Electra complex. So these ideas were that you either loved your mother or your father. And today, that there's a couple of different labels that would steer you from actually saying what you mean. I don't want to be put in jail for being this. I don't want to be put in jail for being that.
I know the perfect thing. Something kind of like what they describe as would be a mental illness back in the day, but something that's considered generally taboo, at least in where we live. Okay, so I'd be so afraid. Let's say I'd be so afraid of the love of Michelle, for example, that I would rather be homosexual or female rather than male at that point of fear.
Okay.
Like what you're talking about, the Catholic fear.
Well, the fear is actually what's pushing in your emotions you away from that. What I was going to say is when you're born, you do love your mother and you do love your. That's why girls will sometimes say, I fell in love with my father. That's Sidna in astrology. And there's no difference between that and any romantic relationships or friendship relationships that you get into. So the only difference is it goes to a higher vibration.
Are you driving away from the Cancer mentality with the nationalism and the Catholic Church and the military and those kind of things?
Yeah. So you get when your definitions are out of balance, they will circle each
What
other.
are you getting at? If not homeland security, what do you want to go for instead?
Um, Anarchy, free reign of.
Anarchy.
That's my best word for it.
All right,
People would still take care of each other in a way that looks like a government form.
What energy is that? Is that Scorpio?
That would be Sagittarius.
Oh, Sagittarius.
Freedom of ideas.
Okay.
And then, of course, the utopian ideal would be how you use all your definitions in an Aquarian sense to match your Pisces dreams.
Yes.
So with this, in communication breakdown is when we have definitions that are out of alignment with what is actually going on in life.
So when you're not commensurate or in alignment with something, um, it means that your abstractions are not committed. If you could say that abstractions could be counted as values that were abstract resources, if you will, they would be values that would be committed to a particular power,
Yes.
if you will.
This,
Like they say with computers.
yeah, this
They call it commit charge.
really away. Right now we're at 28 degree Libra, which is my Venus sign. This Libra is about balance and equality. When people say equality, they have many different definitions of it. A lot of times, it's even in the face of "I'm oppressed."
Oh,
So
if it were a Windows program, what would it be? Because I'm using Task Manager. Because
okay.
my Jupiter in Capricorn.
Yes, he has some
And so, what did you say the Libra was again?
balance and harmony
Balance and harmony.
and balance.
Would that involve any sort of command?
Well, it's the difference between doing your Virgo work equals MC squared and Scorpio, your core sexual resonance.
Okay, so I guess you could say it would be Microsoft Word versus Notepad.
Mm-hmm.
Notepad's sexy because you can have the ultimate potential with it without being hounded down by all these extra command codes.
Yes, the extra command codes. So there, Libra's also about diplomacy. When there's communication breakdown in the world, it's only from those misunderstandings that everything looks really bad. So the gender roles of the kids are just as messed up as the parents who think they have their own spousal roles that they have to perform. And per these definitions, per the love they have for Electra and Oedipus, these then become what they then associate with past loves, past lovers, past relationships, past trusts. Scorpio is about trust.
But why did you need Holy Grail?
Well, the Holy Grail is like what you're really aiming for.
So that's the ultimate love knowledge by definition in the Bible, which would be complete and utter surrender plus union?
Well, let's say
or
people,
those weasel words for you?
people are complex.
Mm-hmm.
So let's say one person says the Holy Grail is 7 Taurus.
Mm-hmm.
I love it, I love it, I love it. But then one person says the Holy Grail is going from 7 Taurus to 7 Scorpio to 8 Gemini to 8 Libra, and then it becomes a whole system.
So
of
it seems
flow.
impossible to follow. It seems like the individual is very unfocused, but that's in fact the way that they learn. That's ADD. You found an astrological formula for ADD.
Cool.
And of course, bipolar disorder would be...
I found an astrological formula into Chris's mind.
Okay, and then bipolar disorder would be a stellium on 2 opposing sides. And then what would schizophrenia be? Schizophrenia would be, say, a cardinal grand cross and some other scatterings.
Yeah.
And
Like
some bad conjuncts with fixed stars.
And it's like the song Metro Station. Shake, 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 shake.
Would it be safe to say that we're implying that the Catholic Church has a schizophrenic mentality.
Mm-hmm.
Split personality. I remember being told that about religion. How does it use the fear to split your personality?
By giving you definitions that don't serve you, that don't fit your core sexual
So, like in
holographic.
in Fight Club, it's the person who can, um, show people the most fear that keeps these little amalgamated.
But here's
together.
the deal: each person is a point of attraction. Chris helped me decode this. This is what I mean when I say Neptune Project.
Mm-hmm.
I've been able to play with it a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
People go through and then they hit little points like this, but let's say they have a sequence. So if they meet here, then they go to the grocery store, then they go here, then they're logically going to get together at church at this place on Sunday. So something in the theme itself is why they all gather there. And then that becomes a church off of that point of attraction, that definition, even within the church.
Okay, what are the characteristics of a God that projects the most fear onto his followers, so that they would trust an understudy such as an official priest with official robes,
The deal is,
or a professional who
well,
has a seal of certification over his wall?
let's do it a little bit different, okay? So let's say you have a sun sign. We're just going to say Capricorn 0. We'll use easy ones. Capricorn 0, moon sign Libra 0, Cancer 0, Saturn, and then we'll do Pluto right up here, the top of that. So these are all 0 points. So Chris goes about his day, and he goes to Catholic school, and he's hitting these, he's hitting these, he's hitting these. And then they tell him some lie that makes him feel safer at hitting 3 degrees away from Pluto each time.
Let
So
me
he's going
word
to
it
start to
extremely
go around.
If I could say extremely bluntly, as if I could reach some kind of supreme power within this incredibly stifling law. So as if
Align your points of attraction
as if
with what you want your life to look like.
as if I could create a law that was stricter because of the fear of a God that was more fearsome, then I wouldn't be affected by any of the lesser laws. So, as Paul says, I first knew the law of sin and was bound to it, but then I held myself even stricter, and therefore I experienced more freedom and more power in the end.
So you need the strongest God. Is that what you're telling me?
Yes, I need the strongest God. Yes.
Okay, the strongest God.
Because I felt like I was really going to succeed and have a future being dressed up as this flag-waving, tie-wearing, pressed pants and shiny boots kind of individual back in the day.
And why did you value that? Why did you value that?
Because,
So now we're in Taurus.
because of the actually I thought it would be more Cancer, because I felt almost like a homeland security kind of feeling.
Yeah, okay, security, but you said value, so now you're making some kind of almost 60-degree connection.
The home was built up because in the Catholic Church, as well as in Judaism, there's an emphasis on amassing a huge amount of wealth by being in an extremely respectable profession before you reproduce, and therefore the faith extends into the profession because they're both professions of faith.
Mm-hmm.
But you have good faith in Catholicism, you have good faith in medicine or law or being a police officer or whatever it is that you do. That's a profession.
Okay, so let's
of
say
practice, if you will.
let's say you have a theme with a certain person. You put them on the scale. So Kevin,
Okay, I felt like I was my own doctor, so I could make my own practicum within the law, and therefore I was free to diversify within that and have my own dreams of what I wanted to achieve, as long as I stayed within, yes, you are going to college, yes, you're going to get a PhD or an MD or a JD or something like that. Maybe even an OD or a
Overdose?
no. That's or I should say DO. Excuse me, Doctor of Optometry, or a DPT, which is Doctor of Physical Therapy. Um,
So when another person,
you know, these kind of things. So you can pick between all of these wonderful careers that's within reasonable unspoken law of Catholicism, and then you'll achieve honor and glory. And so it fits very much in with the with the tiger parenting from the East, if you will.
so
Because it's
this
the
can
same.
be kid A, kid B again.
It also fits very well in with the military. I didn't realize it for a while that the military seemed even more connected to Catholicism than it was to Protestantism, because Protestantism was started with a rebellion against the rigidness of the Vatican.
So let's say each of these.
So law eventually leads to militancy at the point in which we cannot derive any further abstract values from the absolute beliefs that we have set.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to ask you a question, and whatever you say, I'll respect the answer.
You mean you'll assign me a value?
Well,
Will I be Boolean?
would you rather start over from 0, or do you want to work through what you already have in your mind as Chris?
Depends. Would I be a drone, or would I be free?
That's for you to answer. Perhaps we could do them simultaneously, working on both.
You mean both the severed parts, if you will. That might work.
Yeah.
So one moment you could talk to me as a Borg, and the next moment you could talk to me as the anarchist libertarian.
Okay. I like
The anarcho-primitivist.
Put that. Make a new video.